Welcome back, guys. This is part 2 of the Spring Dreams mixed media painting tutorial, and I'm straight into it here with some magenta, alizarin crimson and clear painting medium on the palette. We're moving into creating more balance in this piece, refining and adding those final details in this video. Firstly, I am deepening the pink in this area with a glaze made up of the magenta and alizarin crimson, and I also bring it through the piece here and there. Glazing areas like this allows us to richen the colour and also adds depth to our painting. I've brought in a little of the Mars Black to the glaze mixture, creating this dark purple tint, and I'm bringing that through in a similar fashion, focusing on more of the darker areas in my source. The more time you put into making your background interesting at the beginning will really set you up to bring home a really beautiful and dynamic piece. Keep in mind here at this stage that we are able to fade areas back, tint, and also cover completely if you wish further down the track. So try not to think about this stage with an end result image in mind, but more about what might be cool to see in the deeper parts of your painting at the end. I'm going to add a few different colors to my palette now, and I'm going to be mixing these intuitively as I go. I am looking at my source to see what colors I need to bring in, so I'm adding onto the palette colors that can be mixed together to create colors that are in my source, or use to slightly tint a color as I go for that all important color variation. For your reference, I am using titanium white, fluorescent pink, jaune brilliant, bright aqua green, phthalo turquoise, and yellow ochre. I'm working on building the background here initially with these colors. Every time I head back to get more paint, I'm grabbing a slightly different color. Some tips when building our background with opaques, being color you can't see through, is using it to pop things forward. For instance, bringing in this light pink next to the black hummingbird has popped it forward to the eye a little. And in a moment, I will do a similar thing around parts of the bees to pop them forward also. Also, adding in some brushstrokes in a certain way can create a sense of movement to your piece. You can also use directional brushstrokes as a way of guiding the viewer's eye to a part of the painting you wish them to notice. And do refrain from blending your brushstrokes. If they seem quite bold and stand out, add a few more around it and overlap them a little, adding some more with a different color variation, and before you know it, they aren't so standout anymore, they aren't alone, so they don't look so scary anymore. Another tip is to remember to use your brush in different ways to create a visual difference in your background. I sometimes find myself in same land, but when I resurface, I make sure to switch it up and it really does make a difference. Ooh, another tip is to try and echo interesting brushstrokes in other areas of your piece. What I mean by echo is bring the idea of that visual texture through the painting, but perhaps not so defined in all the areas you apply it, if that makes sense. This helps to bring cohesiveness. I turn for a moment to this butterfly, which is going to be my main focal point. The way I create paintings is building the painting all together, from back to front, and so I'm always working on all areas, bringing them into refinement together. I'm not really focusing on the end bright color of this butterfly, but more working on building on the base values to work from. These colors I'm choosing are more muted, darker versions of the final colors and are the bones as opposed to the skin. That's weird, but you get what I mean. Correcting the values is something I'm doing the whole way through, especially when it comes to the focal point. If you're unclear on what I mean by values, it's the dark and light areas of a subject. Getting the darkest darks and the lightest lights and all the variations in between in the right places will really bring your subject to life. Switching to some mark making, I am strengthening marks that I like and are adding in new marks where I think it might add to the piece. I like to switch the colours of my marks, and it's also a good idea to alternate the thickness of your lines also. Back with the paintbrush in hand, I continue on with the background, and here is another example of bringing a light color up against something that you wish to pop forward. Or perhaps I need to clarify here a bit. If your subject is lighter in color, then a darker color would then pop it forward. So it's creating that contrast that brings about the pop. Something that I often do when I'm creating a painting is I will have a picture of another artist's painting that I admire for its brushwork specifically, and will refer to this for ideas on how I can apply paint to create a more interesting piece. It's very well and good me saying use a variety of brushstrokes, and you're like, cool, so what does that even look like, right? I am like that too, and so having something to refer to helps me a lot. We've done a pretty good job at creating some good balance and interest in this piece, and now it's time to focus more on refining. I'm going to start to brighten things up on my subjects, not to our brightest value, we'll leave that for last, but we are moving up on the highlight scale. I'm still using the colours I have in my palette. This yellow is yellow ochre. I am referring to my source photo a lot here to make sure I am fine tuning the values to accurately reflect what I see while still thinking about colour. I am also being conscious on my edges. Sharper edges will come forward and more blurry edges will recede. I'm adding some glaze in with my colours when I'm coming over the wing here. I don't wish to fully cover the underneath layer, more tint it, moving closer to the end colour I'm going for. Bringing a little of the colours used in the butterfly into the background will help connect the two. Although the butterfly is our focal point and we want it to pop forward and stand out, we also want it connected to the piece, and this helps with that. Mixing a touch of pale gold with some titanium white creates a really beautiful warm white, which I use a lot in my paintings. Here I have also mixed in some clear painting medium, which allows it to become semi-transparent. I'm using this to unify and brighten some of the areas in the background. I'm going to very loosely bring in the idea of a floral element in this area, taking cues of petal shapes from my source photo. I am still using the colours on my palette that I added previously with the addition of the white and gold. Here I'm using Jaune Brilliant mixed with a little of the warm white mixture I created, and a very small touch of fluoro pink in the lighter highlight. I am using the pale gold and white color to add in the highlights on the bees here. I am not going super detailed on the bees. I want them to be an element in the painting, but not the focus. The butterfly will get most of the finer detailed work. Having gone a little too white on the bees here, I just add in a little of the yellow ochre to bring back the yellow. Next, I drop some transparent burnt sienna ink onto the palette to bring in some darker orange in these bees, punching up the richness and warmth here. Step back from your painting often and assess what you think it may need. Look at the piece as a whole and see what may need adding to, keeping in mind, of course, the process of building from the back forward. Mixing together some more Mars Black and alizarin crimson, I come back through the black parts of these bees to enrich and refine. Never underestimate spending time doing little tiny tweaks. It really can make such a difference to your finished piece. I wanted to punch up the contrast on this collaged in hummingbird, and so I'm going over some of the lines with a fine point black water resistant pen. Not outlining the whole bird allows it to stay integrated in the painting. Pens like this are perfect for getting in those finer lines of the butterfly's legs and antenna. This transparent green color I'm bringing in is some olive green mixed with a touch of Mars black and some clear painting medium. Tinting this area with a complementary color like this adds variation and depth. And a little grey helps balance the piece that little bit more. I felt like I needed to bring some zing in again, and so I went to the colours I used for the floral element, punching it up a notch with some more fluorescent pink, and sprinkled it around the piece just enough. Then intuitively reaching for a Caran d'Ache crayon to add in a few more interesting marks. And then switching to a white china marker to help with a few extra highlights in the background. We are heading into the final stretch of this piece now, focusing mainly on the focal point area. I'm starting to brighten this blue on the butterfly's wings with some phthalo turquoise and clear painting medium. Wanting to really start to pop these orange spots, I opt for a bright orange paint marker. Again, I am bringing a touch of what I'm using in the butterfly out into the painting a little. Can you see how this builds a more unified piece? This is a white paint marker I'm using here. Sometimes using the paint markers are a nice option for things like little spots and marks. Getting excited with these paint pens now. I grab one in purple to bring out these purple flowers a little more. I don't want these flowers detailed, but a little more refined where the butterfly touches the flower is a really good idea. Sorry about the in and out focus video here, my hand is slightly too far over and it's trying to take center stage. Every time I head back to the palette, you can see I am picking up a new shade of purple. This is intuitive mixing and application based on what I'm seeing in the source photo. I am moving reasonably quickly, emulating the shapes of the flowers and the values just enough to provide a solid ground for my butterfly. And then going slightly rogue here, just trying to knit this colouring into the piece a little bit more. Washing my brush out completely to assure a nice clean colour, I grabbed some more of the pale gold and white to echo some of these brush strokes I just made through the piece. I am coming in with thicker paint now, so I'm loading my brush with a lot more paint to bring in a couple of areas with this noticeable difference in texture. I see a very slight pink in the top of this wing, but I make it a little bit more visible than in my source because I feel it adds to the piece and connects well with the other pinks within the painting. This pink colour is added with clear painting medium included to create a glaze, which tints the area as opposed to painting in the pink. Focusing on completing this butterfly now, I am referring to my source photo closely and mimicking what I see as best I can. I love creating in mixed media. I enjoy all sorts of mediums. I find this way of creating very freeing and intuitive as opposed to just using paint alone. I find mixed media pieces hold so much more difference and interest, and I just love that. From here, I head into detail land, so enjoy as I bring this piece to life. And it is done. What do you think? I hope you love this piece, and if you enjoyed this video, if you found it valuable, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching.